Hey, what's up, everybody? Yep, just gonna wait on a few people to come on here, man. I don't want to miss my live for the week, even though my last one was a tribute to the good brothers coming home, Mr. Phyllis Walls and Mr. Rufus Rochelle. As you can see from my topic, man, I call Mr. Walls. Hey, Santa, how you doing? And we were just discussing the war on drugs. A lot of people don't remember the war on drugs when Reagan started and when Nancy Reagan was going around and say no to drugs and all the things that were oh, no. And when Nancy was saying say no to drugs. But the biggest thing I remember about that period was like everything changed. I don't know if it stemmed from the death of Lynn Bias and them hyperboling the whole crack epidemic as to why he died and why so many other people passed away from that time. So anyway, after talking to him for a while, I was just thinking about when you have a war. I think about the Vietnam War and World War II. What's up, brother Patrick? How you doing? Think about Vietnam and World War II and how when they had POWs, they sent those people home. When they found out the war was over, man, those people sent the POWs back to their country. The same way we did with the Japanese, the same way we did with the Chinese, the same way we did with the Germans and everything, the same way the Vietnamese did with most of our soldiers. They sent those people back home. What's up, Reg? How you doing? Yeah. How's everybody doing there? Yeah. Um, anyway, so it amazes me how so many people, why it took them so long after declaring that the war on drugs was over, which was in 2008 with the first crack law. That's when the government decided that, okay, this is wrong. There's no such thing as a war on drugs. We should send everybody home. This was in like 2008 when they passed that law. So why did it take 12 extra years for uh, them to send me home, Rufus Rochelle, and Mr. Phyllis Wall, and so many others? So now that we're home, one of the things we talked about trying to find a way to get the rest of the people home to their families. And the rest of the people being people like Marcus Boyd, who's still at FCI Bennettsville with the life sentence. Uh, Michelle West, who's still serving time under the 100-to-1 crack law. These are people who were caught up in the war on drugs when when Bill Clinton did the 1994 crime bill, and he decided to lock all these people up. Then you got Evelyn Bozer Papa, who was from Colombia, and the only thing her family wants her to do to go home. When does a government's power to, once you say something that's unconstitutional, then who can we go to if they're the government to hold them accountable for, keeping people in prison beyond that point? And he and I were talking about how they gave Mr. Walls, that is, they gave him a life sentence. Let me show you how cruel these people are, or how so forward thinking that they are. They gave Mr. Philly Wall a life sentence. Then he's one of the first people that I ever heard of. After giving him a life sentence, they gave him 5 years of supervised release. Do you hear me? So how can a judge say, I'm going to give you a life sentence? And life in the feds mean life. But on his paperwork, they implemented a 5-year supervised release. The 5-year supervised release was instituted. He and I came to the conclusion was that if he ever won his case, that they were still going to implement the 5-year supervised release. And so the whole thing, our whole conversation came about with Me talking about my supervised release, like how can I serve 3 years over the statutory maximum time and you still have me on supervised release? Man, it's literally impossible. This is just their oversight to how they can still keep us in their system. And my whole topic is about freeing the POWs. What's up, James? Freeing the POWs, man. What can we do to further make them release the people who are still caught up on in the war on drugs? The First Step Act hasn't. Evidently, the crack law hasn't done it. What's up, big brother? You all right, Jay? The crack law hadn't done it because in 2008 they let a select few go. Then it came out with the 2-point reduction when Obama came in saying since the 18 and 1 was still unconstitutional, so they came out with the 2-point reduction to where they said that we're going to lower everybody's guideline by 2 points. They're so manipulative in how they construct the guidelines. Man, these people are tricky. There's no way that the crack law, that the war on drugs was declared over with the Fair Sentencing Act, the first Fair Sentencing Act, or the 2008 crack law. But you still got all these people that's still in there fighting. The only difference with this is, and the people are saying, like with Michelle West, she's a first-time offender, has been in prison 25, 26 years. But no matter what amount of paperwork she finds, whatever judge in her district has the power to say, no, he don't think that she should get any action to an unconstitutional crime. Congress has said that this is unconstitutional. But you got these robe-wearing judges who are taking power in their own hand and are still holding these people in prison. If the war on drugs is over, then why Miss Evelyn Bozer Papa is not returned to her country? She's a POW. She's trapped in our system. She's a POW, so why is she still in this country under a drug law that Congress has deemed unconstitutional and you have deemed the war is over? Why are we still holding these people? And there's a lot of Colombians, Hispanics and Colombians that should be returned to their own country, and that's all they want. They're not asking to come back out here in American society for them to do anything for them. They're just asking to be released and going back to their country. These are some of the people who were caught up and caught in the war on drugs. So I was blessed to have that conversation with Mr. Walls, man. He's a very intelligent, educated man who's been through a lot, and he has helped a lot of people. You know, he did law work. You know, his name is famous in the federal system for doing law work for people. And so I pray and hope that he continues to help those guys that which I know he is. You know, that's one thing about, you know, people like that, and by him and Mr. Rochelle. Okay. So that Mr. Rochelle can be able to, you know, be able to help some of the people that they still left behind. You see what I mean? So that's my only thing, man. And my only thing is that how can we help these people? What can we do as a society to put our foot forward? And it's not just into. I'm only talking about the feds because every state has had their version of the war on drugs. You know, we had New York and Detroit with the draconian drug laws when people are still serving time from them. So everybody has their own version. We had Mississippi in their version of the war on drugs. And then here's the thing: the war on drugs is just like a fisherman going out fishing. It was designed to trap and catch as many African American youth as possible. They were just casting their nets out into the projects, to the ghettos, and all over the country. California, all the way from California to New York, all the way down to Miami, Florida. You know, James, you got caught up in the war on drugs. You see what I'm saying? Monroe, Louisiana. So I'm just saying, man. I just think that we have to be mindful of this country's treacherous tricks to keep people incarcerated. I was just watching a live video with Latara Smith where they're protesting outside of the Florence complex, where the number each week has doubled in the amount of people that has been tested positive for COVID-19. Then you seen the thing where I posted about the coronavirus possibly starting in Talladega. And it's weird because they know, and see, they don't even tell the public. They don't even tell the public that what they're trying to do is move all the people who have been quarantined or who need to be quarantined. It's getting so bad in the federal system to where they're sending these people to Terre Haute, Indiana. So what they're doing is getting the people who are negative out of Terre Haute, and they're bringing in all the people from all over the BOP who they're not expecting to make it, or who are either too sick. They don't care about their travel or anything. They're sending them to Terre Haute, Indiana. But you don't see this in the public. You just hear people. You see it in a footnote. So everybody's so caught up in everything that they're doing. How you doing, Miss Pauline? Appreciate everything you're doing. You got to put me down with Rich. That people are so caught up in everything that they're doing that they're not watching the hand of the government. The same way, how can the state be at odds with the federal government about when they're releasing people, or when they're saying it's safe for everybody to go out? With COVID-19, man, it's either a trick to depopulate us or to put us further in danger, or people are not taking these things serious. And I looked at that. So right now we're at the hands, not necessarily of the federal government, but under FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management. Because if this goes on for so long, then FEMA has the power to overrule everything that the government and the president said. The president will have no authority, no power once FEMA comes in and declare that it's a national emergency. I'm not sure about the amount of time, but I will. On my next live, I'll tell you. But could it be coming to where they're saying that FEMA is going to take over and implement laws to where they can stop and frisk anytime they get one to? Because once we have a national emergency and FEMA takes over, then they don't need the local police or the sheriff department or the FBI to arrest you. They form their own task force and they lock you up. And they can institute their own POW camps. Right here, whether it's in Mississippi, whether every state, they can cut off the borders of each state and implement FEMA management stations in each state. Yeah, these are laws that people don't pay attention to, or they don't watch the process. The whole process is, if they extend it, I'm not saying that it's not as bad as it is, because evidently it is, because our people are dying every day. But they're dying because we're not being safe and proactive and protecting ourselves. We're trying, or are they knowing that people are, and the question I want to know is the population going up in prison because they're finally declaring that they finally realize that they have a problem within the system and here in public, and they're testing more people? Are the numbers going up because of that? You know what I mean? So I'm saying, why keep subjecting these people who are in prison, as I call them, prisoners of war, these prisoners of war from the war on drugs who serve over 15, 20 years in prison, why do you keep subjecting them to more time in prison and have them exposed? Why are you subjecting people from other countries who deserve to be in their own country during this pandemic or this crisis? I mean, why? That's the basis of my topic, but I want people to be mindful wherever you are, whether you're in Miami, Florida, whether you're in Washington, D.C., whether you're here in Mississippi, wherever. Just be mindful, in Texas or wherever you are. Just be mindful of everything that's going on around you. I'm going to always speak and advocate for the people I left in prison, but I'm going to always try to shed some light on the things that are going on around us. We got to be more proactive in protecting ourselves and our family members. And here's the thing. I was watching the Blacklist today. And it's so crazy how some of these things come across TV and how some of the virus are genetically engineered to affect a certain type of people. You notice when this COVID-19 first came out, they were saying that everybody was talking about, oh, African Americans don't get it. Now all of a sudden, in the African American community, it's spreading, and it's popping off. It's popping off like wildfire. And so, with that being said, they came out with the thing to where they were saying, well, it's for people who have underlying conditions such as high blood pressure, diabetes, the things that affect us as a race and a population. So is COVID-19 genetically engineered to attack us harder and greater or in greater numbers? The same way it is the majority of us are in prison. Why is it spreading in prison so fast? Is it because what's up, Corey? That it's put in prison to depopulate the federal prison? Because at one time people used to think, back when the war on drugs first started, you didn't have many African Americans in prison. You know what I mean? In the prison, when we first went to the it was called Club Fed because it was so high profile. Yes, it was still dangerous. Yes, it was, but it made the time easier because it wasn't for the African American population until the war on drugs. And so after they cashed the net out to catch everybody up in the war on drugs, then Bill Clinton came out. They find out, okay, this war on drugs is actually scooping a bunch of these African American up. You see what I'm saying? So then Bill Clinton came with the 1994 crime bill, and you're going to hear that when we talk about that when we do the National Plus, the Positive Leaders Unite on May 16th. So we'll be speaking about that. We want everybody to tune in. I'll put the flyer out later on in the week, so everybody can see. They can tune in to that. And so what I'm saying is, are they making this pandemic or disease to cater and depopulate us as a people in prison and in the free world? You know what I mean? And so everything around us, all the big businesses are still staying open, but all of us small business people, in the small towns, man, they're choking us out. They're choking us out. You know what I mean? And so that's just food for thought, man. I just wanted to think about, with everybody protesting, and all the people who do prison ministry, like you, Miss Pauline, and like Latara Smith, and like Mr. Phyllis Wall wants to do. Like, how can we help those people who are incarcerated in the state and in the feds? MDOC, man, MDOC. I'm looking at some of the stuff on their website. Man, it's utterly ridiculous as to how these guys are passing out and falling out. But you don't see that on the news. You know what I mean? The minute some high profile person get affected, then it's all over every news station. But when 4 or 5 people die in a day from COVID-19, right here at 29 in Parchment, which is supposed to be closed, but it's not, in Parchment, then we don't hear anything about it. When they got tents at almost every federal prison in the BOP, they got tents on the yard like it's a POW camp. The same thing that you used to see on MASH, those same tents that you used to see on MASH are in our federal prison right now, where they're taking guys out of the unit who have tested positive for COVID-19. They got them sleeping outside in the tent. And these people that before a person leaves, and same way Mr. Wall and Mr. Rufus Rochelle said, they got immediate release, but their immediate release was 14 days of quarantine. They had to set them aside 14 days in order to be released. If that's not a prison camp, then what is it? If that's not a POW camp, then what is it? I mean, man, shed some light on it for me. I'm just trying to figure this whole thing out. Like, why are we still subjecting those? That's the biggest conversation, man. And I had the greatest time talking to Mr. Walls, and he shared so many things. Even though we were in the same system, you go through so many different things in the federal system to where it's mind blowing. You know how they manipulate the laws just to keep us trapped and to make it harder for us. Like once we get into that web of deceit. And don't be fooled, man. Don't be fooled on the outside. Don't keep riding and getting up every day and not paying attention to what's going on around you, man. Keep your eye, man, on what they're trying to do to us with all this genetically modified foods and stuff. Even with the beef, they're talking about closing all the beef plants here in the United States. They're closing all the cattle houses, the slaughterhouses here in the United States and all the chicken places, but yet they're still importing beef from other countries, from Brazil. They don't have COVID-19 over there. You know what I mean? They don't have the virus over there from Brazil and all these other countries, man. We got more cattle, we got more beef right now coming from other countries since this pandemic than any time since the Great Depression. Man, we anywhere in Texas, there's slaughterhouses, all up through Montana, Oklahoma, and everywhere. They're closing these places, man. They're closing our own beef processing plant and importing us beef. They're closing our own processing plant for fish, and we're getting fish from overseas. So that's the one thing. That's the one thing, man, that I want to tell everybody, man. Is just pay attention to your surroundings. And that's one of the things is me looking from the outside looking in and me communicating with a lot of people who are still incarcerated, via Corelink. Man, the conditions are being played down. The things that our brothers are going through every day are being played down. That's from Parchman, that's from the state of Alabama, that's from the feds and Yazoo City, Mississippi, that's from the feds and Florence. Everything is being played to a minimum because they don't want you to panic. They don't care if you get to the point to where you get so relaxed that you put your life in danger. They're not putting their lives in danger. You can believe that. You know what I mean? So we got to use our own mind and our own brains to try to stay safe. But in conclusion, the thing is, like I say, I started this. Let's not become a society where we're prisoners of this government war on our society. Maybe COVID-19 is the stealthy rules that they're going to use to imprison us as a populated as citizens, as free citizens. Because like I told you, be mindful. If you don't know, I want you to look into the whole FEMA thing as to how long, if a pandemic is in operation or in existence for a certain amount of time, I want you to Google and look for yourself to see how long it is before FEMA can actually declare it's a state of emergency. And the president and the government has no power. Has anybody heard anything about the upcoming election and Joe Biden running? Has anybody been campaigning or paid any attention to that? Nobody's talking about that. Who's going to be the next president? Is there going to be an election or a next president, just like the baseball season? Nobody's really paying attention to the sports arena and stuff like that. But just think about that. When the last time you heard anything about the president's election or the campaign? They still got virtual. Everything else is virtual. They having virtual town halls on everything else. So are we still going to let them take this election from us and put their person who can implement these further mandatory restrictive laws on us as a society and still depopulate us at the same time? Are we going to let them continue to create panic without digging into the cause or trying to stay safe from us being from us losing all of our rights? Just like prisoners lose right, man. I don't want to become a society where I leave prison and become a prison to a pandemic or anything. I want to stay safe to keep my family safe and keep everybody else safe. But I don't want to leave one prison and come out to another prison. You know what I'm saying? But I also don't want people to walk every day and not take this thing serious, man. Because they're piling up our brother's body inside, and they're not telling us, because guys are still dying, man. People are telling me that Butner, Forest City, Florence, Colorado, Talladega, Alabama. People are still dying, but they got a gag order on their families, so the families can't tell the public about their loved ones dying from COVID-19 inside a prison. So what's that all about? Why? I think we have a right to know if somebody dies in prison from COVID-19 because these same people have to come out to their loved ones too. And their loved ones got the right to know. We have the right to know what our loved ones are going through inside a prison. You know what I mean? So if anybody have any question, man, I want to chime on anything like that. But that's my time. It's been real. And so I say free all the POWs, man. In prison as much as we can, man. And whatever we can do, Miss Pauline and everybody else, Latara Smith, Marsha King, Mr. Phyllis Wall, I'm ready. Whatever we need to do and whatever we need to sit down, Mr. Ken Assad, Terrence Coffey, everybody. If you got an idea, man, just join Plus. Join us on Plus. Reach out to Brother Terrence Coffey. He's with Educate, Don't Incarcerate. So we have a lot of work that we have to do. Hey, Mama Georgia, how you doing? So we got a lot of work that we need to do, man. But the real thing, we need to stay safe until this is over. When that'll be, nobody really knows. But I just think them easing the restrictions on places that the majority of African Americans attend is like a telltale sign that they wanted to infect and affect us. But we're too caught up in wanting to be free than being patient. We got to be patient and stay safe first, man. You know what I mean? So, yeah, they're dying in the Indiana prison as well, man. I heard. They're dying in the prisons all over, man, but they're not telling us that. You're not seeing it on the news, man. Yeah. Yes, free Terrence, hashtag free Terrence Montgomery. He's in Pollock. He's one of the worst states, one of the worst cases of COVID-19 in the whole United States. So we have to free these POW, man. Terrence came in at the end of the war on drugs, but he got caught in the net. He's one of the young blooms that got caught in the net, man, and so he's doing time for hundreds to one crack laws, and they know this. They know that people are still doing time for these fictitious, these ghost drugs that nobody ever seen, that the prosecutor gets to talk about, and they bring in a bunch of rats to come in and talk about he had this and he had that and he had this, and they charge you for all this ghost dope that you do 100 years for. I guarantee you, man. I asked Mr. Rufus Rochelle. He didn't get caught with one grain of dope. He got a life sentence. Marcus Boyd never got caught with 1 grain of dope. He has a life sentence. Mr. Phyllis Wall never got caught with 1 speck of dope, and he had a life sentence. You know what I mean? Me never got caught with 1 speck of dope. Had 400 months. So what does that tell you? That they can bring somebody in to say something about you and give you a life sentence for. And it's not just about drugs, man. It's the same thing with the gun. They can say that I tell y'all about this stacking all the time because this stacking can affect anybody, not just me. So you don't have to have a crime and you don't have to have a prior to be to get a lot of time for a gun. You can possess a gun while having a blunt or marijuana, and get time, an extra 5 years stacked. And you can get a year for the marijuana and 5 years for the gun. So, just be aware, man. Make yourself knowledgeable of the law. That's my time, y'all. It was good talking to you. And so, SIP's Advocacy Initiative and Leadership Program. Stay with me, ride with me. See you next week.